What happens when two of America's most outspoken figures collide on live television? What you're about to see isn't just an interview. It's a clash that unraveled into chaos. Accusations flew, tempers boiled over, and what followed became one of the most unforgettable walk-offs in late-night history. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below. Because this one gets absolutely wild. The studio lights were blinding as Donald Trump settled into the guest chair opposite Jon Stewart. The Daily Show desk suddenly felt smaller than ever. The tension was thick, electric, even before the cameras rolled. Stewart shuffled his papers with that trademark smirk tugging at his lips. Trump adjusted his tie, scanning the audience with the confidence of a man who lived for the spotlight. "So," Stewart began, leaning forward with theatrical weight. "Let's talk about your relationship with the truth." "It's complicated, isn't it?" Trump's jaw twitched. Jon. You know what's complicated. Your ratings. When's the last time you had a story anyone cared about?" The audience gasped, sensing blood. Stewart's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. "Oh, we're starting there. Okay. Well, my ratings may be complicated, but at least I don't have to invent facts to support them. Make up facts." Trump leaned back, arms wide. "Everything I say is backed up by tremendous research. The best research. You wouldn't understand it. You're too busy making jokes about serious issues." Stewart tapped his pen on the desk, that dangerous glint in his eye. "Serious issues. Like when you said windmills cause cancer. That was some groundbreaking science." "I never said that," Trump snapped. "You literally said it at a fundraiser." "There's video, fake news." Taken out of context, Stewart let the silence hang heavy. The audience leaned in. "So, the video of you speaking is fake news. The interpretation is fake. The media twists everything. I gave a beautiful speech about energy independence, and you people turned it into some kind of conspiracy theory." "But you did say windmills cause cancer." "I said they might." "Huge difference, Jon. But the media doesn't care about nuance." "Nuance." Stewart's voice dropped to that calm, lethal register his fans knew well. "Coming from you. Every sentence is either tremendous or a disaster. The best or the worst. Where's the nuance in that?" Trump's face flushed, the red creeping up his collar. "I communicate clearly. People understand me. Unlike you, hiding behind jokes instead of talking about real problems." "Real problems." Stewart leaned in. "Like the real problem of you claiming the election was stolen, even after every court, including judges you appointed, said otherwise." The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. Trump's hands, once animated, froze. "We're not going there, Jon." "Not going where?" "To facts. To reality. We're not going to relitigate something twisted by a corrupt media establishment, including this show." Stewart set his pen down with precision. "Twisted how?" "By accurately reporting what happened. Nothing was accurate. Nothing. It was a witch hunt from day one. And you know it. You were part of it." "I was part of reporting the news." "You were part of the propaganda machine." Trump's voice cracked into a near shout. "Your little comedy show pretending to be journalism while you spread lies and division." The room was dead silent now. No laughter, no applause, just raw tension. Stewart's eyes narrowed. He repeated the word slowly, propaganda. That's rich coming from someone who spent 4 years calling any unfavorable coverage fake news. "Tell me, Donald, what makes something propaganda instead of journalism in your world?" "Journalism tells the truth. Propaganda has an agenda. And who decides what the truth is?" Trump hesitated, caught in the trap, but unwilling to retreat. "The facts decide." "The facts." "Great." Stewart pounced. "So when the facts show you lost the election, that's just facts, right?" "Those weren't facts. Those were manipulated statistics, pushed by people who wanted to destroy our democracy." Stewart laughed, but it wasn't the warm chuckle his audience knew. This laugh was sharp, cold, cutting. "Our democracy," Stewart echoed, his voice sharp. You're concerned about our democracy. The same democracy you tried to overturn when you didn't like the results. Trump's face was now a deep, furious red. His fists clenched on the armrests. I tried to save our democracy from people like you, he snapped. People who want to silence half the country. Silence half the country. Stewart shot back. By reporting what actually happened. By lying about what actually happened. The exchange had become rapid fire, voices overlapping. The pretense of a normal interview long gone. Stewart leaned in like a prosecutor. Trump leaned back like a defendant. The audience watched as if a car crash was unfolding in real time. Lying about what? Stewart pressed. Be specific. Everything. The Russia investigation, the election coverage. All of it designed to take down a president who was fighting for the American people. Fighting for the American people. Stewart repeated. By spreading conspiracy theories. Fighting for the American people. Trump countered. By exposing the truth about a corrupt system that includes people exactly like you. Stewart stood up abruptly. A move so rare in his interviews that Trump actually flinched. People exactly like me. You mean people who ask questions. People who expect answers. People who think reality matters. Trump was on his feet now, too. The two men stood across the desk like gunslingers at high noon. People who think they're smarter than everyone else. Trump snarled. People who look down on regular Americans and then wonder why those Americans don't trust them. Regular Americans. Stewart's voice was incredulous. You mean the regular Americans who stormed the Capitol because you told them the election was stolen? The line hit Trump like a blow. His face went from red to purple. The studio fell silent, the only sound the low hum of the air conditioning. The audience held its breath, sensing they were witnessing history. Don't you dare, Trump said, his voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare blame me for what happened that day. Stewart didn't back down. He stepped closer to the desk, his voice rising. I'm not blaming you. I'm quoting you. Your exact words, fight like hell, or you're not going to have a country anymore. Ring any bells. That's called political speech. Jon, something you wouldn't understand because you've never run for anything. You just sit here in your little studio and throw stones. Political speech, Stewart repeated, shaking his head. When does political speech become incitement? When people actually act on it. When it's actually incitement, which it wasn't. Trump snapped. I told people to march peacefully. I said, be peaceful. But you don't show that part, do you? You and your media friends just edit out anything that doesn't fit your narrative. Stewart grabbed a stack of papers from his desk and rifled through them deliberately. Okay, let's talk about peaceful. He held up a page. You also said, and I'm reading directly from the transcript here, that they needed to show strength, that being weak won't work, that they need to fight much harder. How exactly do you fight peacefully? Trump's eyes narrowed. You're twisting my words again. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You take one sentence out of a 2-hour speech and act like that's the whole story. One sentence. Stewart's voice cracked like a whip. It was the theme of the entire speech. The entire rally was built around the idea that the election was stolen and something had to be done about it. Something legal had to be done about it. Trump shot back. Constitutional processes. I was talking about constitutional processes. Stewart laughed bitterly. Constitutional processes. Like pressuring your vice president to reject electoral votes. Like calling state officials and asking them to find votes that didn't exist. I was exercising my right to challenge questionable election results. Every candidate has that right. Every candidate has the right to file lawsuits. Stewart cut in. You filed 60 of them. You lost 59. At what point do you accept that maybe? Just maybe. You actually lost. Trump was pacing now, moving behind his chair like a caged animal. I lost those cases because the courts refused to look at the evidence. They dismissed them on technicalities. They dismissed them because there was no evidence, Stewart said sharply. Your own Attorney General said there was no evidence. Your own Department of Homeland Security said it was the most secure election in history. My Attorney General was weak. Homeland Security was compromised. The whole system was working against us. Stewart threw up his hands in exasperation. Everyone was against you? Everyone. The courts. The states. Your own appointees. Your own party members who certified the results. Everyone was part of some massive conspiracy except you. Not everyone, Trump growled. But enough people in key positions to steal an election. Yes, the audience began to murmur, people shifting uncomfortably in their seats. The tension was no longer just between the two men, it had spread across the entire room like static. This had gone far beyond entertainment. The air in the studio was no longer charged with late-night mischief, but with something heavier, darker. Stewart lowered himself back into his chair, but his posture stayed tense, coiled like a spring. Do you even hear yourself? He asked quietly. Do you understand what you're saying? The level of coordination you're describing. Dozens of states, thousands of people. Perfect secrecy. It's literally impossible. Nothing's impossible, Trump shot back. Not when there's enough money and enough power behind it. Enough money and power from who? Stewart's voice cut like a blade. Who orchestrated this supposed conspiracy? Trump waved a hand dismissively. You know who? The same people who've been trying to destroy me since the moment I came down that escalator. Name them. Stewart pressed. Give me names. I'm not going to play your games, Jon. You know exactly who I'm talking about. No, I don't, Stewart said, leaning forward now, his voice taking on that prosecutorial edge. You're speaking in riddles and shadows. You're asking millions of people to believe in unnamed enemies because you can't accept that you lost an election. The American people lost. Trump shot back. They lost their voice. They lost their vote. They lost their country. They lost their country? Stewart echoed. To who? To the people they elected. To the people who stole their election, Trump said, and installed a puppet government. The words hung in the air like toxic smoke. Stewart stared at him for a long, cold moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. A puppet government. You're calling the democratically elected government of the United States a puppet government. If the shoe fits. Do you even understand the implications of what you're suggesting? Trump straightened his tie, a flicker of composure returning. I understand that I'm speaking truth to power, something you used to claim you did, before you became part of the establishment. The establishment, Stewart repeated, shaking his head. Right. The establishment that somehow includes everyone who disagrees with you. Judges, election officials, your own staff who resigned rather than go along with your claims. They quit because they were weak, Trump snapped. They couldn't handle the pressure. Or they quit because they had integrity, Stewart countered. Because they wouldn't participate in overturning a legitimate election. Trump's face darkened again. Legitimate. There was nothing legitimate about that election. Nothing. And deep down, you know it. Everyone knows it. But nobody has the courage to say it. Stewart rose from his chair and stepped out from behind the desk, breaking every rule of late-night etiquette. I have the courage to say a lot of things, he said. I have the courage to say you're lying. I have the courage to say you're dangerous. I have the courage to say that what you did was wrong. Trump backed up a step, but his voice stayed defiant. What I did was fight for my country. What you're doing is destroying it. I'm destroying it by asking you to provide evidence for your claims. Stewart shot back. You're destroying it by spreading lies and calling them truth. By gaslighting the American people into believing something that never happened. The irony of the accusation was so thick it felt like a fog. Stewart gave a harsh, disbelieving laugh. I'm gaslighting people. You spent 2 months telling Americans the election was rigged before a single vote was counted. You declared victory while ballots were still being tallied. You filed lawsuits your own lawyers admitted had no evidence. And I'm the one gaslighting people. You're part of a system that refuses to acknowledge obvious fraud because it benefited your side. Show me the fraud. Right now. Give me one specific example of fraud that changed the outcome of the election. The Trump gestured broadly at the cameras, the lights, the audience. This is fraud. This whole setup. This whole interview. You brought me here under false pretenses to attack me on national television. Stewart's jaw dropped. False pretenses. You agreed to come on this show. Nobody forced you. Nobody tricked you. We told you exactly what this was. You told me this was going to be a fair interview about my policies and my vision for America. Fair means asking tough questions, Stewart said. If fair means expecting honest answers. Trump moved toward the edge of the set now, his body language screaming exit. But Stewart wasn't done. Where are you going? We're not finished here. A Trump turned back, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. Oh, we're finished. We're more than finished. This is exactly why nobody trusts the media anymore. This is exactly why the American people are waking up to what you people really are. What we really are? Stewart asked. Enemies of the people. The words enemies of the people cracked through the studio like a gunshot. The audience gasped audibly. Even the hardened production crew behind the cameras froze, stunned. Trump's finger was trembling, his whole arm shaking with fury. Don't you put that on me, he barked. I didn't tell anyone to storm anything. I told them to fight for their country. I told them to stand up, not to break the law. Stewart didn't back down. You told them to fight like hell, or you won't have a country anymore. Those are your words. You stood on that stage, you lit the fuse, and then you walked away when the bomb went off. Trump's jaw clenched, so tight the tendons stood out on his neck. You twist everything. You people twist everything. You took a movement of patriots and turned it into a crime scene to destroy me. Stewart took a step closer, his voice low but lethal. A movement of patriots doesn't smash windows and beat police officers with flagpoles. A movement of patriots doesn't try to hang the vice president. That's not patriotism. That's a mob. For the first time, Trump's eyes flickered. Not fear exactly, but something like calculation. The audience was dead silent now. No coughs, no whispers, just the hum of the cameras. You don't get it, Trump said, his voice dropping to a rasp. They're angry because the system betrayed them. And you're part of that system. Stewart's voice hardened. The system you're talking about is democracy. The system you're talking about is the Constitution you swore to uphold. You don't get to burn it down because you lost. A Trump's nostrils flared. I didn't lose. Yes, you did. Stewart snapped. And you're still losing. Right here? Right now. Because you can't tell the truth. The Trump's hand twitched like he wanted to snatch the mic back from the production assistant. Instead, he jabbed his finger at Stewart again. History will remember me as a fighter. It'll remember you as a clown. Stewart's eyes blazed. History will remember you as the man who tried to break the country because his ego couldn't handle reality. And it'll remember the people who stood up to you. For a heartbeat, the two men stood there, locked in silence, the distance between them feeling like an entire battlefield. The audience still didn't move. The security team shifted again, unsure if the explosion would be verbal or physical. Trump finally broke the stare, muttering under his breath as he turned for the exit. But even in retreat, his voice carried. We'll see who history remembers. That's on you and people like you. You created that anger with your lies and your bias and your complete contempt for half the country. I created that anger, Stewart shot back. By reporting facts. By distorting facts. By hating America and everything it stands for. A Trump sneered. Exactly. Stewart laughed, not with joy, but with the hollow sound of someone who had long since stopped believing reason could win. I hate America, right? The guy who spent his entire career making fun of politicians to keep them honest hates America. But the guy who tried to overturn an election loves it. I tried to save it, Trump said. You tried to destroy it. I'm still trying to save it, Trump repeated, from people like you. And with that, Trump turned and walked off the set. Not dramatically, not with a flourish, but with the determined stride of someone who had made up his mind and wouldn't be swayed. The cameras followed him as he disappeared into the wings, leaving Stewart standing alone on the set, still breathing hard, still shaking with anger. The audience sat in stunned silence. Nobody knew whether to applaud, boo, or just sit there in shock. Stewart looked around at the faces staring back at him, then at the cameras, then at the empty chair where Trump had been sitting just moments before. Well, he said finally, his voice hoarse from shouting. That happened. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then Stewart walked back to his desk, sat down heavily in his chair, and looked directly into the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, that was supposed to be a 20-minute interview about policy and governance. Instead, you just witnessed what happens when someone who has never been held accountable meets someone whose job it is to hold people accountable. He paused, running his hand through his hair again. I've been doing this job for a long time, and I've interviewed presidents, prime ministers, dictators, and celebrities. I've seen people get angry, defensive, evasive, and combative. But I've never seen someone so completely divorced from reality that they can't even engage with basic questions about their own actions. Another pause. That wasn't an interview. That was an intervention. And like most interventions involving addicts, it didn't work. Stewart looked at the empty chair one more time, then back at the camera. We'll be right back after this break, if we can figure out how to follow that. The cameras cut to commercial, but the damage was done. In less than 30 minutes, two of America's most recognizable figures had engaged in a verbal war that laid bare the fundamental divisions in American society. There were no winners, and only casualties, and the biggest casualty might have been the very idea that public discourse could still function in a democracy. That interview that was supposed to be about policy had become about something much more fundamental, whether truth itself still mattered in American politics. And based on what had just happened, the answer was terrifyingly unclear. What do you think? Did Stewart go too far, or was Trump impossible to interview? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, and let me know what other explosive interviews you'd like to see covered on this channel.